Welcome everyone. My name is Raymond Adams and I'm a Senior Procurement Specialist with the Department of Procurement Services. And this is our bid and bond room. And this workshop will be focusing on how to respond to a request for proposal or RFP. Okay, first we're going to go over tips for finding bid opportunities with the City of Chicago. Bids valued over $100,000 and RFPs are publicly advertised in the Chicago Sun-Times. Bids and RFPs are posted on the City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services website at www.cityofchicago.org/bids to view and download, bookmark, and they are updated weekly. Bid opportunities are posted in City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services Bid and Bond Room, which is where we are now, room 103 in City Hall at 121 North LaSalle Street. Bid or RFP are on CD-ROMs and can be picked up here. On the website, but we're going to hold the question. You weren't here earlier. We're going to hold the questions until the end because this is being live streamed and everybody can't hear you. That's okay. See the City of Chicago buying plan and register your company for DPS alerts on the DPS website at www.cityofchicago.org/procurement. Attend pre-bid conferences, network with other potential bidders to partner on the bid, subcontract, or submit as a prime. Check bid takeout lists posted in the bid and bond room on the DPS website. Now we're going to discuss the use of a RFP versus a competitive bid. RFP, or request for proposal, is a method of procurement to hire a professional services consultant to implement a new project in various professional service disciplines. It's project specific and used when the city does not have in-house technical experts or resources to implement a project or provide services. Competitive bid, or bid, is a method of procurement to purchase supplies, equipment, maintenance, and/or repair services and construction. Detailed bid specification is prepared, structured as project-specific with specific quantities, one-time, or blanket, indefinite quantity usage, aka depends upon requirements, or DUR, term agreement, for goods and/or services. Proposal page line items include defined unit of measures and specific or estimated quantities. Now we're going to cover the differences between an RFP versus a competitive bid. Bid specification details every aspect of product or services. An RFP defines project objectives and scope of service parameters, but does not specify in detail every aspect of how to accomplish or perform the required services. The city seeks proposals from qualified vendors detailing their proposed plan to implement and complete the project. An RFP entails detailed evaluation of proposals by an evaluation committee, or EC, based on evaluation criterion published in the RFP. The EC is comprised of various stakeholder departments. For a competitive bid, contract award is to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, meeting city specifications based on department review of bid tabulation and recommendation of award. For an RFP, vendor selection is to the highest rated or ranked respondent to the RFP, not lowest price. Price can be negotiated. Now we'll review sample RFP handout. For purposes of this workshop, refer to the sample RFP handout provided. Presenter will refer to sections in the sample RFP and present pertinent information in the PowerPoint slides. RFP content is standardized but may vary depending upon the project. For example, city-funded or state federal grant funding. MBE, WBE versus DBE goals. Minority Business Enterprise, or MBE, and Women Business Enterprise, WBE, participation goals typically are in all city-funded projects. Disadvantaged business enterprise, DBE, participation goals may be required for state or federal grant-funded projects. If DBE goals, local preference terms, in other words, Chicago-based business preference, MBE, WBE, etc., will be removed if prohibited by the grantor. RFP proposal format. Prepare an 8.5 by 11 letter-sized paper, printed double-sided. Use recycled paper. Expensive papers and bindings are discouraged and no materials will be returned. Submit original plus required number of copies as identified in the specification. Hard copy or CD-ROM or USB drive. Sections of proposal should be separated by labeled tabs or organized in subject matter sequence in the required content of proposal section. Each page numbered in a manner to be uniquely identified. Proposals must be clear, concise, and well organized. RFP proposal content. Section 1 would be cover letter. Section 2, executive summary. Section 3, professional qualifications and specialized experience of respondent and team members. Section 4, professional qualifications and specialized experience of key personnel. Section 5, implementation or work plan. Section 6, cost proposal. Submit on city form for equitable comparisons. Section 7, MBE, WBE, or DBE plan, which are summarized in Schedules C1 and D1. Section 8, financial statements, audited last 3 years or equivalent. Section 9, online economic disclosure statement and affidavit, or EDS. And Appendix B, building code scofflaw problem landlord certification. Section 10, legal actions for the past 5 years, and Section 11, insurance, which is required at time of contract award. RFP evaluation criteria. RFP evaluation criterion will vary depending upon the project, but the most common ones are as follows: professional qualifications and specialized experience, local availability of team, and this refers to the prime, joint venture partners, or subcontractors, if any. Current and past performance record plus references, certifications and or licenses. Professional qualifications and specialized experience, local availability of key personnel. Resumes, role on project plus organization chart and dedicated resources. Implementation of work plan, cost proposal, MBE, WBE commitment, 25% for MBE and 5% for WBE participation goals or other goals set. DBE may apply if federally funded project. Financial statements, compliance with laws, ordinances, and statutes, EDS certifications. Legal actions, and conflict of interest. Tips for preparing the RFP proposal. Read the entire RFP document. Follow proposal format and content instructions. No shortcuts. Don't assume the city knows your firm. Submit questions about the RFP in writing to DPS, the Department of Procurement Services. Addendum will be issued to all RFP document holders on file with the bid and bond room. Be responsive to RFP submittal requirements. Submit all required information and documents. Submit cost proposal in format provided for equitable comparisons. Be a responsible vendor. Verify your company has the ability and the capacity to perform, and your proposal meets each specified requirement. If a mandatory requirement, avoid taking exceptions to the requirement. It will result in proposal rejection. Tips for preparing RFP proposal. Exhibit forms which must be completed as part of the proposal submission will vary depending upon the RFP, but the following exhibit forms are universal to every RFP. Company profile information, company references, client profile information, MBE, WBE, or DBE compliance plan, Schedule C1 and D1, and or waiver. Online economic disclosure statement and affidavit, or EDS, which includes disclosure of retained parties and familiar relationships with elected city officials and department heads and other certifications. For online EDS instructions, go to http://webapps.cityofchicago.org/EDS-web. Insurance certificate required at contract award. Review city standard contract terms and conditions if attached as an RFP exhibit to determine if your firm can perform under those terms and conditions. Verify existence of any addendum issued by city before submitting proposal. Tips for submitting RFP proposal. Submit proposal on time. Return a complete sealed package no later than 4 p.m. Central Time to bid and bond room 103 in City Hall on the published due date in the legal advertisement. Late proposals may be rejected by the CPO unless stated otherwise in the RFP. Cover letter must be signed by an authorized officer. Acknowledge any addendum issued in your cover letter. Pay attention to the RFP instructions for proposal submission requirements. Submit one-page EDS certificate of filing. Make a checklist of all submittal requirements per proposal required content section to verify completeness of proposal before submitting to DPS. Proposal evaluation and award. Respondents to the RFP are posted on website. No other information about proposals or evaluation is available until after the contract award process is completed. All Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests received are held until after contract award. Debriefing meetings can be requested in writing to CPO. Evaluation Committee or EC evaluates proposals in 3 phases. 1, preliminary proposal assessment, checklist for responsiveness. 2, proposal evaluation. And 3, site visits, demonstrations, oral presentations if necessary. Vendor selection and declination letters sent to respondents as applicable. City is not obligated to select any vendor. Contract award contingent on successful negotiation of terms and pricing. City not obligated to award a contract. RFP may allow multiple awards by service category or separate projects. Okay, thank you for attending this session. Now we're at the question and answer component of our meeting. Has everybody signed in? Okay. Questions? This lady had a question here first.
Hi, I have a question as far as the forms where it says, for example, the plan, schedule C1 and D1. Are there samples that we can pull down online? Those
particular sections will be included in the RFP when you pick it up.
It's a whole packet.
Well, it's going to be built into the RFP, the sample documents. But if you want to, you can look at one beforehand. You can pull up a current proposal that's out now and look to see what it looks like.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What website would I use for that?
The one identified in the handouts, the City of Chicago website.
Okay, so it wouldn't be the WEB app, cityofchicago.org will be on that website, the EDS web?
You can go to cityofchicago.org/procurement, and
okay.
You can access all the information from our particular department, including bid opportunities and things like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, I think on your third slide, I was asking about the bid opportunities being posted in the bid and bond room. Where in the bid and bond room are those posted?
Okay, the question is, where in the bid and bond room are the opportunities posted? Well, when you come to the bid and bond room, which is the room we're in, you can ask the ladies that are in the back for the documents that you're looking for.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, they're online too.
That's right. And the,
And then also on our social media page. that day. So you can also check there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Let me give you the mic.
If a firm is certified as an MBE or WBE with Cook County, is that acceptable to the City of Chicago as a sister
Yes,
agency?
the county certification.
If they're not
is
certified, if they're
acceptable,
certified
but
as
it's only
lapsed?
with the county, not with any other agency.
But Cook County
Right, we
does
do recognize
fulfill the
Cook County.
requirements for the city?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
With respect to the RFP proposal content, one of the requirements are financial statements
Yes.
and audited for last 3 years or equivalent. What do you consider to be an equivalent? And then I'm assuming if the company hasn't been in business for 3 years that, and cannot submit the last 3 years, that 2 years or 1 year would be appropriate, or would they be unqualified because they don't have audited 3 years financial statements or equivalent?
Okay, so to repeat your question, you want to know what is considered an equivalent statement, and what do you do in an instance if your company hasn't been in business for long enough to supply 3 years of financial statements? Well, depending on the specification, it might identify that you would have to have been in business for a certain amount of time to qualify anyway. If that's not the case, then right, you would just submit the financial statements for the amount of time that you have been in business. So if you've only been in business 2 years, then you submit the 2 years worth of statements.
Can I just ask a follow-up? Just because it's being
Yes, sorry.
recorded, okay. In terms of the RFP specifying the number of years you have to be in business, how typical does the city do that? And when they do require a certain number of years, how many years typically is it?
Okay, to repeat your question, you want to know how often does the city specify that you have to have been in business for a certain amount of years in order to qualify? I'm not sure that that happens with any frequency. I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question? Depending on what the specification's calling for, that may or may not be an issue. But you'll know when you read the specification. So you.
I was asking how often does the city require a certain number of years, and when it does require a certain number of years, approximately how many years?
I haven't seen that personally, but I guess if they were looking for something like somebody doing financial services, they would prefer somebody that was experienced rather than a company that just opened up, because they would want you to have enough of a track record in order to demonstrate that you have the capacity to perform. Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? I don't want to monopolize the mic here. Legal actions, last 5 years. I'm assuming that's legal actions involving the proposer or bidder. And would that be actions not only against them, as well as actions that they may have initiated?
Right. I think I understand your question. So to repeat your question, you want to know with respect to legal actions, does that cover both sides of the spectrum, which is legal actions taken against your firm and any actions that your firm undertook against another entity? So yes, it would cover both. Any legal action that the firm was involved in, whether you initiated or someone initiated against your firm, those would need to be reported.
learn from you and the others.
All right. In terms of the cost proposal, I'm looking at the evaluation criteria now. In terms of the cost proposal, does the city recommend any particular format for that?
So the question is, does the city have a recommended structure for the cost proposal? Typically, we would include some type of a table in the proposal itself that will reflect the information that you would have to submit. Yep.
Do you have to be certified before applying, before answering any request for proposal or applying for any bids? Do you have to be certified?
Okay, so to repeat the question was, do you have to be certified before you respond to the proposal? Well, if you're responding to a proposal, for example, what we would call a target market that's requiring that the entity or the respondent is certified, yes, you would have to be certified. So it's not something that you can get after the award. They will want you to be certified at the time of your application.
Is that for any proposals?
Yes.
Are they all market targeted? This is my first.
No. They're not all target market, but usually most of our proposals have some type of minority or women-owned business participation requirement, typically 25% for a minority business and 5% for women. So that's why the city encourages any entities that are certified MBE or WBE that they come to some of our pre-proposal meetings so that they can network with the prime contractors and possibly participate in these contracts.
I have a follow-up question regarding that. With respect to those bids or RFPs that have MWBE contract participation goals, in order for a company to satisfy those goals, and just to be clear, do they have to be certified with a certification, a current certification letter at the time of the bid date?
Yes. So to answer your question, if you're responding to a request for proposals and that RFP requires that you have some type of minority or women-owned business certification, yes, you would have to have that certification when you apply. It's not something that you would get down the road. When you applied for that particular proposal, you would need to be certified already.
Okay, and the reason why I asked that, because I know at one point the city would allow a bidder to complete the schedules with companies that are pending certification, and they would expedite the certification upon request so that possibly those companies would not miss out on an opportunity. So apparently the policy has changed, and that was a policy some time ago. So that's one reason why I'm here to kind of update myself on what the current policies are. So, but what you're saying, just so that I'm clear, let's say if I'm a bidder, for example, and I'm bidding on and submitting a bid to the city that has an MBE, WBE contract participation goal, and I want to include a company on my team to fulfill that goal.
Right.
That company must be currently certified by the city or the county.
Correct.
At the time of the bid date when that proposal is submitted.
That's correct. Now, the only possible exception I can see is an instance where when you apply, the company is going through a recertification process. So maybe their paperwork is with our department and it hasn't been approved yet. But if they're already, for example, if your proposal was due on June 1st, and let's say June 15th, their certification expired, but they've already been certified, then they're just renewing. So that's an instance when, we could look at maybe expediting a certification, or it's with the understanding that we already know that that this organization was certified, they're just recertifying. But not somebody that's never been certified before,
Gotcha.
because there's no reasonable expectation that, as far as we're concerned, that that person is going to be certified. I mean, they might think they qualify, but
Yeah, good point.
that would be,
Good point, but another example would be if the company's certification, let's say, if the company's certification expired, using your example, April 15th, and prior to the expiration date, they submitted a recertification
Right.
application, but had not heard back from the city
Right.
at the time of the bid date on
Sure.
June 1st.
right, and that's possible.
In short, if you're not certified, then there's no need of you applying for
Well,
applying for any bids or.
Well, we're
any-
talking about different circumstances here. We're talking about one circumstance where the RFP is asking for certified businesses, which we would call a target market RFP. So we're asking for people who are certified with the city or the county as MBE or WBE businesses. The second instance, which is the one that probably happens more often than not, is this is appealing to any potential respondent with the understanding that you're going to have to bring on some type of minority participation. So if there's no requirement that the respondent itself is an MBE or WBE, then there's no problem. You just have to bring on another company that will fulfill your MBE, WBE requirements.
Okay.
Your turn. These are good questions. Go ahead.
I'm glad.
Dig in.
You think so? You're doing a great job answering them.
Well, thank you.
Let's see. So, with respect to the FOIA requests, what you indicate, they're held until after contract award. And so I'm assuming you're talking about FOIA requests with respect to, let's say, the proposals of other bidders.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, a FOIA request wouldn't necessarily apply to another respondent, because as a respondent who didn't get the award, you might just want to ask some questions regarding why your particular proposal wasn't accepted or why you didn't win after we make the award. So that wouldn't necessarily have to go through a Freedom of Information
That's right.
request. You
So
could
you
just send
could
a
ask for a
request to the
debriefing.
CPO, right. Usually FOIA requests are from people from the general public or the media or something. But since you're
That's
already
right.
part of the process, I don't think it would be considered a FOIA request. You just want some answers so that maybe you can better your proposal next time or something.
Exactly, which is why I guess I was wondering why it said here that the FOIA requests are received or held until after contract award, because just like you said, you can ask, you can ask for a meeting to discuss
Right, but you're
why you were the unsuccessful
Right.
proposer, and that's referred to a debriefing, right?
Right, but you still can't do that until afterwards.
Right.
You don't do that while we're still doing the process. That would be after the contract is
And can you
negotiated.
talk about the debriefing process, please?
Debriefing just means you're asking for a meeting with the chief purchasing officer to basically find out whatever questions you might have about the process. Why wasn't my proposal selected? What deficiencies were identified, or something to that effect.
And is the CPO the one that typically conducts those meetings, or are they?
It could be, I guess, the CPO or whoever the CPO elects to do it.
And how soon do those meetings typically occur after a request is made?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the timing is, and I'm not even sure that even happens that often, but
Yeah, that's another question I was
Yeah.
going to ask, how often? Because that's really a good way for unsuccessful bidders to find out information
right?
that resulted in their, them being unsuccessful.
Right.
So just to repeat that, the debriefing meetings are a good process to bidders to utilize.
Absolutely.
Because that's how they find out
Right,
why they were unsuccessful.
right, because
And-
otherwise, we're not providing that information.
Exactly.
You're in a row.
In terms of the committee, evaluation committee, and I would assume the committee members change depending upon, obviously, the bid or the proposal.
Oh, yeah.
And so, how long, does the city have a certain period of time where it commits to evaluating proposals and bid specifications? Or is, what, I guess a better question would be, what's the typical amount of time after a bid proposal date does the city take to evaluate the proposals and determine who either the successful proposer is or who the lowest responsible bidder is?
So your question is, what's usually the time involved with putting together the evaluation committee, reviewing the proposals, and I guess even ultimately making a decision on who the successful respondent is? That varies from situation to situation. I know from being involved in the process myself, even right now, that the city is always motivated to get these done as quickly as possible, because we usually need to get the services provided, no matter what the services are. So if the proposal was due on June 1st, it depends on how complex the proposals are, because some proposals can literally be this thick and some might be this thick. And it depends on how many respondents there are too. So it can take some time to review, because we have to review all of the proposals to make sure that they're complete. And then after that, we have to have the committee meet and debrief them, and then they have to review the proposals. So again, that's a function of how many proposals we have to review and how in-depth or large the proposals are. So that varies from instance to instance. Right. And you had mentioned about the evaluation committee. Yeah, different evaluation committees are put together based on what the subject matter of the proposals are. So for example, if we were putting out a request for proposals to get property managers for the city, then we would probably select evaluation committee members from departments like the planning department or fleet and facility management, maybe even procurement, departments that have some type of interaction with that type of professional. So they would be considered subject matter experts as far as the city was concerned, because they would have a higher level of knowledge about that particular subject or project, and they would be in a better position to give a good evaluation. So yeah, we don't have a standing evaluation committee that reviews proposals. They're ad hoc committees that are put together for that particular specification.
Regarding the vendor selection process and with the declination letters, so if the city rejects a proposer, or I guess the question is, do unsuccessful proposers or bidders typically receive a letter that they have been unsuccessful? That's one question.
Yeah. All applicants or respondents will get a letter one way or another. They'll either get a letter stating that they were not, after the evaluation process was completed and their proposals were evaluated based on the criteria that was published, that they weren't selected, or they can get a letter saying that they were selected for further consideration, and we might ask them to come in to present additional information based on questions that were proposed by the evaluation committee.
Okay, so they all do get a letter, you say? All right, and then another question. City not obligated to select any vendor. How often does that occur where the city may not select any vendor, and under what circumstances?
Actually, I don't know the statistics on how often that happens. My gut feeling is that it doesn't happen much, but I can think of instances where it would happen. Maybe the specification that was put together wasn't complete enough to get the types of bids that we wanted, or maybe it was put together properly, but the prices were so high that we needed to reconsider and maybe do it a different way, or some other reason like that.
I think I'm going to make this my last question, to everyone's delight perhaps. But in terms of the state of Illinois, for example, has certain rules governing communications with with state officials. Which rules would you say that we should be aware of with respect to communications with city bidders regarding upcoming bidding opportunities?
With respect to communications, that's also clearly outlined in the RFP when it's put out. So I can tell you in general, any communications would go through the senior procurement specialist, which is what I am. That's
Specified.
Right, that's right. That's responsible for that particular project, and my name is listed in the RFP. So you're not to, and no other city person probably would be in a position to answer any questions anyway, except probably one of my superiors. So they would all go through one person, and depending on the questions that you ask, if you're asking questions that are general in nature, I could probably give you an answer quickly. If you're asking something that I think that would benefit all the potential applicants, then we will put out an addendum. So we have a set amount of time for people to ask their questions. And then after I compile all of the questions, we'll determine if those questions need to be put out in an addendum so that all of the bidders can see it and have the benefit of it. Like I said, if it's something general in nature, which is just a clarification on something that's in the RFP, then that might not necessarily need to go out in an addendum.
Great, thank you very much. Great job.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions from anyone else in the room? If not, well, thank you for attending our session here, and feel free to call. I'm going to pass you out my business cards too if you have any questions. As long as they're not questions regarding one of the projects I'm working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond.